Well, good evening, everyone. It is 6:30. I'm going to call our committee of the whole meeting to order for Monday, December 12th, 2022. Excuse me. Daryl, I'll flip it over to you to tee up on the audit presentation for the 6:30 meeting here.
All right. Tonight we have Doug Roundabout here that has done our audit for the past, I don't know, seems like forever, 7, 8 years probably, 10 years now. But finished up several weeks ago and had the final report. So every year Doug comes and gives a presentation, a short slide summary of where we are in the status, and has an opportunity for you to ask questions if you have any on the audit. I know Dan provided that to you in the packet, so you've had a little bit of a chance to look at it, and then you have bound copies tonight. So I'll just turn it over to Doug. He can roll through his slides, and then Dan and Julie are here also if there's questions on any of the numbers from a local perspective.
Now you can hear me? Okay. First of all, thank you for having us come and do the audit again. Happy to be here and kind of walk through it with you. If there's any questions as we go, please by all means let me know, but we'll try to get through it and make you page through a few things here. First of all, on page 1, this is the independent auditor's report where we express our opinion after we do an audit. The purpose of the audit is to form an opinion on the financial statements. And it's rearranged a little differently than it has been in the past. That's some new auditing standards that we had to follow. So nothing more than that. But the opinion is now right at the very top of page 1, right in the second paragraph. And it says the statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the city. So that's a good, clean opinion, what you want to have when you have an audit done for sure. And then other information that's in here now that wasn't previously is at the top of page 2. It goes a little bit more into detail of what the auditor's responsibilities are. And these are always things that we have done, but now we spell them out right in the audit report for you. Pages 3 through 9, this is management's discussion and analysis. It's where Dan puts together, or maybe Daryl puts together some of the information for this particular section. And on page 3 is the financial highlights. Just some of the big things that occurred in the city during the year, and certainly the road work seems to be the main focus here. There's a lot of different street work that was done during the year and in progress at year end. And I'll get in, there's a lot of number information in here too that I'll go through with you as we go through the slides and the report. So page 11, I'll jump around a little bit, hopefully not too bad. But pages 11 through 13 are the government-wide financial statements, which is more of a set of financial statements that has more of a long-term focus. So it's on full accrual basis, similar to any other business that you might see, but it includes all of your capital assets, your depreciable capital assets, along with all of your long-term debt, your pension and OPEB liabilities. And as you go down that right-hand or that left-hand column there on page 11, way at the very bottom, you can see your unrestricted net position is $6.9 million. That's a good number. There's many communities that have negative numbers there. And kind of if you scroll up or go up just a little bit there, the net investment in capital assets, which is your capital assets net of your long-term debt, and that's about $77 million. And up a little higher right in the middle of the page, you can see your other post-employment benefits liability at $3.3 million and your net pension liability at $3.8 million. So not too bad. Those are not significant amounts. Many communities have very large pension and OPEB liabilities, which drives that net position into a negative number. So, and I'll show you a little bit more about pension and OPEB as we get into the footnotes. And then pages 12 and 13, I made pictures of those ones for you. So we'll see if this works. Oh. Yes. So this is, we're kind of comparing the expenses here to the direct or program revenues for each of the major functions of the city. The first one there is general government and judicial, public safety, public works. Those are the major functions of the city, and you can see this compares the expenses, which are the blue bar, with the direct revenues, which is the green. You see it, like, for example, in general government, there's a little bit of operating grants and contributions there from some of the ARPA money that was used this year, about $167,000. Public Works, that has a lot of program revenues because that includes your Act 51 money that you receive from the state, which is associated with the streets. And then you can see the Culture and Recreation, which includes the Ice and Fitness Center. There's a lot of charges for services in there, which are direct or program revenues. So that's how that one works. And then this is just a pie chart of all, I'm sorry, I'm backing up. So the thing that this can tell you though is you have income tax, property tax, and state shared revenue that is not a direct or program revenue. So that's the money that's used to make up for the differences on this pie chart essentially. Or, no, I'm sorry, this graph essentially. And this is a pie chart of where the state or where the money all comes from in these governmental activities. And again, this takes the entire city and boils it all down into one. But you can see 53% is coming from income tax. I need my glasses. 6% is coming from property tax, about 10% from state shared, and 16% from operating grants, which again, that's the Act 51 money primarily. So, and then what I did is I looked at last year's graph, and the pie chart lays out almost identical to last year within a couple percentages here and there. So it's very, very steady in where the money's coming from. There, that's better. And then keep going through the pages 14 through 17. Now this is more the near-term focus, the fund basis financial statements, and more what you'd be accustomed to seeing on a month-to-month basis as you see the budget to actual reports. So this is that basis of accounting. And you can see your general fund is in the left-hand column there on page 14, I'm looking. Right near the bottom is the unassigned fund balance. That's the fund balance that's available or unspoken for. And that's 11.8 million. And I'll give you some little graphs here in a second. Other things I wanted to point out here is up in the middle of the page, there's a new fund here. It's called the ARPA fund. That's the ARPA revenue. Most of that money has been set aside for use in this, I guess, in your current fiscal year or beyond. It has to be spent by 24, I believe, is the number. But there's 2.4 million there that's available. And then there's also the Major Streets Fund, about 3.1 million in fund balance there. The local street is a non-major fund, and they're all kind of lumped in that right-hand column, but there's about 355,000 available in that fund. And if you want to flip around here a little bit, you can jump up to pages 55 and 56. This is the detail of the non-major funds. And I did want to point out to you on page 56, the revenue, that's the income statement. You can see the local streets, they typically, the local streets don't get funded quite as much as the major streets, so there's more spent. So you can see a negative 280,000, which is covered by a transfer in of 350,000 from the general fund. And also the ice and fitness program still operated at a little bit of a deficit, about 56,000, with a transfer in from the general fund of about 450 to cover some of that, or all of that operating deficit. And then page 45 is another one I wanted to point out. This is the general fund, budget to actual. So you can see this is where all the high numbers came from. Your income taxes were budgeted at about 11,500,000 and ended the year at about 15 million. So about 3.5 million over budget. And that kind of drove the bottom line. Your budget right at the bottom of page 45, the amended budget was an increase of 6,500. Your actual increase was 4.3 million, driven primarily by that income tax income. You can see also all the expenditure areas. Everyone's very diligent about keeping things within budget. The expenditures are right in the middle of that page, and you can see the variance there. There are positive variances for all of the areas, whether due to watching things carefully or perhaps some deferred expenditures and that kind of thing. But they all remained at positive. And at the end of the day, you ended about 4.3 million ahead of your budget. So then these next set of slides, I'm focusing just on the general fund. This is kind of a 5-year trend on the general fund revenues. And you can see there the income tax has been going up for the last couple of years. Property tax is more of a steady increase. State shared was up this year, took a bit of a jump because of population. The new population census came in and was included in here, so it increased. And then you can see other had kind of a blip in 2021, and that's due to several COVID grants that were received in 2021 that weren't received in other years. So that one jumped a little bit. And then here's a little bit of a longer term, a 10-year trend on the income tax revenues. You can see again that has been going up. 2020 COVID year was a little bit of a downturn due to maybe some conservative estimating there, but it recovered very well and has been trending upward since. And then again, in the general fund property tax revenues, you can see that's been increasing steadily for the last 10 years due to, I don't think the millage has been touched for those years, but it just a increase in the taxable values within the city. And then this is the expenditures by function in the general fund. And you can see everything has stayed pretty steady. General government, the jump this year, just a little bit of a bump, was for some additional IT personnel, plus a big expense for a tax return scanner, which is going to really help out there in the tax department. Public safety came down a little bit. In the previous year, there were some body cams purchased, as well as some additional COVID pay that was made with those COVID grants. So that's why that's down a little bit this year. And then transfers out is down quite a bit. In the previous year, there was, I have to look at my notes, I have to cheat. But last year there was a major streets and equipment fund received some pretty substantial transfers that didn't need to be repeated again this year. So remember I said you were up about $4 million ahead of your budget. So that caused the fund balance as a percentage of expenditures and transfers to jump from in the lower 40s all the way up to about 65% this year. And that's again driven by the bottom line this year, which made the unassigned fund balance increase by that much. And then just a few footnotes I wanted to be sure and highlight here. On page 30, this is where, footnote 2 is where we have to disclose to the state if there's any expenditures in excess of amounts budgeted, and there weren't any this year. So we do say that here. Oh, I'm sorry. If you go to the top of page 31, there's one very, very small one. So the state won't even know about that one. And page 37, this is the pension. So you can see here at the top of page 37, we have the total pension liability, which is calculated by actuaries. And then we have the plan fiduciary net position, which is essentially the assets of the plan. And you can see at the end of the year, 3.8 million of net pension liability, which is down almost 2 million from the previous year. And that was driven primarily by the net investment income of 2.9 million. I mentioned it before the meeting, whoever was here, but these are reported as of December 31st. So the first 2 quarters of 22, so March through June, probably lost a chunk of that investment income. I don't know how it turned out. I haven't seen anything, but they do that annually as of December 31. So we'll see how they look for this coming year. And then the OPEB note, similarly on page 42. The OPEB is reported as of June 30. So you can see the net investment income there was a little bit down. It's a negative 93,000. But all in all, the actuaries made some pretty substantial changes on their experience ratings on the plan, and so that the OPEB liability actually also decreased by about $900,000 from 4.2 to 3.3 million. Oh, I did miss one. I was going to also look at long-term debt on page 38. Sorry about that. All I wanted to point out on long-term debt is you don't have hardly any. So the long-term debt, most of it is actually going to be paid off in this coming fiscal year or the current fiscal year that you're in. So there's only some very little minor contracts that are still out there to be paid. So the long-term debt is in great shape. In the previous years, that was all I wanted to point out to you on the footnotes. In previous years, we've also had a separate letter. You may have that in front of you. It's a little 2-page letter where we report any comments and recommendations that we have, but we didn't really have any this year. We followed up on the ones from last year, and they have been addressed and taken care of and didn't have anything new to report. So we will definitely be following up on those other ones to make sure that wasn't a one-year glitch in getting things resolved. But we're always on the lookout for ways that we can help and point out controls and that kind of thing that can be improved. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to address those.
Commissioners, I have some comments, but I'll withhold and defer. I'll start to my left. Anything, Commissioners Burke, DeShane, or Chase?
What a great presentation, thank you. Just on the pension, the MERS, the MERS, I don't know how you all say it. It said there are 81 people total on it. Is that kind of a capped number now? It's on page 35. That's going forward, there aren't going to be 82. It's going to be 81 or less, right? Okay.
Only 16 active.
16 active, right. That's right. Okay, great. And then remind me, please, what OPEB stands for. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Other post-employment benefits.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sorry.
Anything else to the left? To the right?
I have comments. First, I just wanted to say I appreciate all of your work, and this is certainly for folks like myself a welcome opportunity to take a more thorough review of the city's finances. The 4.2% spending reduction was great. I think we should take out a billboard, get that out there. I did want to say the rate of return on our pension, I saw 7%. Is that where Gatsby's at right now? The generally assumed rate of return?
That's the actuary's estimate of what the going forward that return is going to be.
Okay.
And if they come out ahead or below that, that's what they try to estimate.
I have concerns that that's an ambitious standard to have out in the air. I think, what does the state have us report at? Do we report under 6% now, I think?
Something like 5.
Yeah, I think so. So just something for consideration as we're reviewing these numbers, that keeping in mind that the long-term returns on this will impact the numbers that we see, right?
Yeah, MERS has been reducing that number over the last several
Right.
years, so
Right.
it was at 8
Yeah,
not too long ago. So,
Yeah, there was a long push to reduce that
yes.
assumption. That being said, the pension, seeing 86.2% funded is incredible. I think that knowing kind of where the peer network is at, that is an outstanding place for us to be. I have been an advocate during my time in the state legislature to increase adjust the standards so that there's a benchmark out there at 80%, because at a certain point we need to start to approach 100% funded in these plans, and many communities don't seem to take that as a part of the equation. They see 60% and say that's where they said we got to be. So that's another component of this, and I'm just glad to see that we've taken it upon ourselves to continue to invest in this and make sure that we're continuing to approach that funding level that says we are getting there. On the OPEB 31%, I did just want to say, and this is a call out to our finance committee and those developing the budget, but my view, my personal opinion, I would like to see us get to 40% next year in the next budget. That 40% mark is kind of where the line is supposed to be at for underfunded for plans, and that's something I think that we, being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars, should look to do. I think my napkin math over here says that's about a $500,000 investment, but I think that at a certain point, that's a choice we'll have to make, so. Just putting all of this out there into the ether, and I will also say on the OPEB assumptions, 4.5% for healthcare cost trends is also a very generous assumption to the plan with what I know is going on in healthcare right now. So that's enough feedback from me.
Thank you. Couple of thoughts. I think for me, there's definitely some excitement. The kind of the nerd in me comes out when you start seeing, this is the stuff, to quote our state senator and former mayor, I'd always said this is not pretty or glamorous. When we paid this down and made the push, when we were able to start doing that in the mid-teens and the aggressive piece. And I would actually ask Daryl or Dan, one of you might know, do you remember what from a funded perspective, what our low point was? The two of you have been around the longest in the room, where we were at. Julie might even remember what our funding was for the pension.
If you go back to page 48, you can kind of see a 10-year, well, it goes back to 2014 there.
Yeah, this is even way back, because this
Yeah.
was,
So that goes down to 50% there.
oh, that's
In
good
2015,
historical
yeah.
perspective.
I think at one point we were around 28%, if I recall. Yeah,
Since
it was
you've
pretty
been
low.
here, so that, I
Yeah,
mean, that's
over the years, yeah.
really significant. I think to the point of, even if we took that 50% number, it's a significant improvement. It's not something the news media is gonna run on the front page of the news. It doesn't always make for the greatest of social media posts, but it's just something we know it's the right thing to do. We've continued to do that. I'll give Dan DeVries, who tirelessly advocates we just got to continue to pay that down, and doesn't allow us to get into trouble. And our income tax administrator in the back of the room, who always kind of keeps our forecast conservative. So thank you on that end. So for me, the 86% funded is awesome from where we've come from. The 53% revenue, that as a percentage of the income tax, it was just a couple years ago, we were up about 67, 68%. And that's a significant, as a business person, I don't like that many eggs in a basket. And to get it down to 53% is also just, I think, some good planning from that aspect. But my summary, and I just mentioned this to Dan and Daryl a little bit earlier this evening, of, we kind of expected to be here. We've been doing the right things. We shouldn't be surprised that we're getting these types of returns. We're seeing the changes in the numbers. That being said, I'm going to rain on the parade just a little bit here, because it looks like we're sitting in a really good financial position. We have a new library that we're considering right now. And while that looks to be probably a public-private partnership, is one of the options, we're going to have some investment there. We have a building next door that is 24 years old, and we're going to be seeing some significant six-figure capital expenses related to that building coming up in the foreseeable future. And the other is, if we're blessed enough to have the Fruit Ridge Bridge finally come around at some point in time. It's either going to have some significant issues and just be closed, or it's going to get replaced. That being said, we've got some expenses coming, but we expected to be here. We've put money aside, planning ahead, so this should not be a surprise to us. But thank you, Dan, Julie. Can't say enough for the finance piece, and Daryl kind of guiding us of what's the right thing to do here. So this is just an awesome, maybe the best audit, I think, Doug, that I can remember us having since I've been in office. So this is outstanding. So.
Just a couple points. Just want to really thank Dan for all his work and effort he put into this, and getting Doug all the information on time, and Julie's effort as well. But just wanted to point out that, and Doug kind of glossed it over a little bit, but the performance over at the Ice and Fitness Center, where we anticipated using about $450,000 of fund balance, and only ended up using about $56,000. So much, much better than we anticipated. They were not out of the woods yet, but it performed a lot better on a lot of the revenues, and I think that's a testament to the staff over there, but we obviously are going to continue to work in that direction. And I think this is the first one we haven't had any comments from Doug in any of our letters, so let's keep it that way.
And I'll pick on Doug a little bit here. We get this nice tightly packaged little Christmas gift to the city here. But I think it was last Friday night, was in here. I happened to be in here a little bit later than normal, walked down the hall, and I heard some noise. I think it's Scott in his office, picking his fantasy football lineup or something, and came around the corner, wasn't Scott. I'm like, okay, there's somebody else, there's somebody who shouldn't be down that hallway, and there's Doug later on a Friday night working, and it was well past dinner time to keep us on track for things. So there's a lot of late night hours you've burnt. I've seen you in here, so thank you again from all of us. I appreciate the efforts you give to the city. Thank you. All right, commissioners, if that is that, we'll take a quick 1-2 minute. Everybody needs a break or a refill, and we'll get started here in just a minute. All right, we'll go ahead. I'm going to call our 7 o'clock meeting on Monday, December 12th, 2022 for the City Commission to order. I'd like to invite Commissioner Burke to deliver the invocation, lead us in Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this time to focus our attention on our city. Guide us to do it with wisdom and foresight. Help us appreciate our many blessings and keep us in your care through this holiday season. And please look out for our armed forces, our first responders, and our public works, keeping the roads clear. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I'd like to ask the audience to stand up and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it
Thank you all. If I could ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Carey,
Present.
Commissioner Burke,
Present.
Commissioner DeShane,
Present.
Commissioner Chase,
Present.
Commissioner Groders,
Present.
Commissioner Babcock,
Present.
and Commissioner Gilbert.
Present.
All right, thank you all. If I could ask for, if there is no discussion on the November 28, 2022 City Commission meeting minutes, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
I'll make that motion. Support.
Commissioner DeShane, Commissioner Babcock. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right. First is, we have two public hearings. I'm going to open these up and close them one at a time. The first is the public hearing for the Standale-Walker Streetscape Maintenance Special Assessment District 205. If there's anyone wishing to speak on this matter only, and actually probably, I'm going to do a motion, make this official, motion to open up the public hearing and then a motion to close it. Entertain a motion to open.
Motion to open public hearing.
I'll support.
Gilbert, Commissioner Chase, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, thank you. So anyone wishing to speak on the Standale-Walker Streetscape Maintenance Special Assessment District 205 and on that special assessment district alone is welcome to come to the podium. Gentlemen, no, you're not here for that, so. All right, on to a motion to close the public hearing, please.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Support.
Commissioner DeShane, Commissioner Groders, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Next on the list is a motion to open the public hearing for the Industrial Facilities Exemption Certificate for Tech Group Grand Rapids, located at 3116 North Wilson Court Northwest. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Chase, Commissioner Burke, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak on the Industrial Facilities Exemption Certificate for Tech Group Grand Rapids, located at 3116 North Wilson Court, is welcome to come to the podium at this time. And gentlemen, as you come up, you'll hit that button right there. It'll make that light go red, and you're live on camera and mic, so.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to speak about this project. I'm Brian Minus. I'm the site director for Tech Group Grand Rapids, Inc., also known as West Pharmaceutical Services. This is Todd Workman representing the Altus Group, who is supporting the financial review for this project. We're currently considering expansion at the Grand Rapids location at 3116 North Wilson Court due to continued growth with one of our key customers. The expected investment is $38.7 million. That investment includes 39,000 square feet of additional manufacturing space, as well as the associated manufacturing equipment needed to support the program we're looking at. The program is broke down. $7 million of that is for facility expansion. The balance goes to the manufacturing equipment. Along with it, we're expecting 90 new full-time jobs to be created with this. As well as execution on this program positions us well for future growth opportunities with this customer. We've been in Walker since 2007. We're proud of the accomplishments that we've been able to achieve since moving out here. Excited about our future with Walker, and really grateful for the partnership that we have with the city. So thank you for your consideration.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. Commissioners, any questions for either Mr. Midas or Mr. Workman? I had a cool little story I remember not long ago, and actually I remember being back 2 governors ago as a city commissioner, being on the stage for, I believe it was the first expansion back, and I can't remember the exact year, maybe 13, 14, somewhere in there, or significant expansion in being there, boy, with Governor Granholm at that point. And then a couple years ago was coming down Wilson and coming towards Remembrance, and rarely do you see so pronounced cranes on the skyline in the city of Walker. and it happened to be the expansion down there. So just, it was kind of a neat thing, and I would think on behalf of our city commission, we're very grateful you continue to grow and expand in Walker, and you frequent a lot of our businesses in town because they get out and get lunches and when they're able to, but just the growth is neat to see, and we appreciate the investment in our community.
Yeah, thank you.
So, commissioners, any questions further before I close? I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing then.
So moved.
Commissioner Groders,
Support.
Commissioner DeShane. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, the public hearing is closed then. Thank you much, gentlemen. We'll come to you in just a second here. And then next on the list is public comment on any agenda items from the audience. Anybody going once, going twice? All right, next on the list is the consent agenda. There are 4 items. I'm going to spell these out for anybody that might be watching online and not looking at the agenda. The first is the expenditures in the amount of $325,219.54. The second is consult engineering contracts, Center and Weatherford Drive Roundabout, Kinney Avenue street improvements. And Scott, I'll invite any questions for the group. Scott up in a second before we take the motion. The third item is bid recommendation for Alpine Avenue and Cogswell Street Storm Sewer Replacement Project. And the fourth is the finance agreement for the Bristol Bridge, Sanitary Sewer, and Watermain, which we've been discussing. So that being said, Scott, is there any background you'd like to give on a couple of those? I don't think you want to talk about the bills.
That sounds like a request to give some background, so. I guess real high level, we've already approved the recommendations of the 2 different engineering firms for the Center Drive Roundabout and also for the Kinney project. That was on September 26th. So what you're seeing in the contract is exactly the same template we use for every other project. In fact, I feel terrible that it took me this long to do it because it was literally changing 3 or 4 different items in there. And in fact, Daryl pointed out that one of the items to change, we had the name transposed on the bottom of the Center Drive one, so we've gotten that fixed, and that's ready to go. But basically it refers to their proposal, which you've already seen and recommended approval of, so those are pretty easy. Alpine Avenue and Cogswell, you might remember that we had a project on the schedule for next year to resurface Alpine Avenue. In doing our due diligence out there, we were doing some videoing of the underground utilities, and it came upon quite a surprise, and we found that at that intersection, there's a whole lot going on at that intersection with a spider web of storm sewer right there. And for whatever reason, when that was built decades ago, there was a problem, and a lot of the joints have come apart. So underground, there are sections of pipe that aren't connected. And in the video, it was pretty extreme. In fact, I had first said, there's got to be some repairs that we can do. And then I watched the video, and watching it's like watching a colonoscopy. It's not the most fun experience. But at the end of that, I agreed with everybody and said, there's no way we can save this and then spend a bunch of money on top of it, crossing our fingers. So here we are with the repair. I guess I would call this critical. The funding, for the most part, is in the budget. We have $80,000 in the 21-22 year that was dedicated for design. We have $240,000 in 22-23, making $320,000 in those 2 years. And the total budget for this is about $374,000. So we do need to come up with some extra. Be working with Daryl and Dan if you approve this tonight to do that. I think there are some sources available. We just need to figure that out. The other part is this might span into next fiscal year, which would make it very easy, then a small expenditure in next year's budget, and we've got that covered. The bad news is we still haven't resurfaced the road at that point, so we have to come back and fulfill a pledge that we made to do that as well. And then the last item was sanitary sewer and water main finance agreements for Bristol. We are just about wrapped up with that project with the design. It's headed to MDOT here very shortly for bidding. And there were 2 requests from the city of Grand Rapids. Both of them were good requests. One was to connect 2 dead-end water mains on either side of the bridge. And you might expect with a bridge like this, when the water system was developed, they got to the bridge and stopped and said, we're not going to touch that. And they did that on both sides. So while we've got that out, for the system, we really need to make that connection for redundancy, water quality. There's a whole lot of good reasons to make that. And Grand Rapids also said, we'll help you out with that, with system financing for that amount. That was $130,000. We think it'll be much less, but we want to make sure that we've got a high cap in there in case it gets to be a little bit more. And then when you see there's a sewer finance agreement, that is related to a sanitary sewer that currently runs underneath the bridge that needs to be slightly relocated. And we debated this quite a bit and ultimately came to the decision that if we're going to put a brand new bridge over this, we want to get another 120 years out of it. And that means putting the sewer in the right place, making sure that it's constructed properly. And Grand Rapids again stepped up and said, we'll be able to help with the financing so it doesn't hurt our overall project. And it just follows that great asset management approach that we're supposed to be using. So I think that's kind of a high level summary. Hope that helps.
Commissioners, any questions for Scott? Commissioner Burke?
Scott, I'm familiar with all this, and I know I asked this before, and I know you answered it, but I can't remember. What's the impact on the Alpine Cogswell going to be for traffic while we get that repair done, do you think?
I hope I give you the same answer I gave before. The plan is going to be to use half the road at a time for construction. So you'll start out and you'll see one lane in each direction. We'll get half the road done, and then they'll swap over to the other side and do the same thing. It's going to cause friction. There's going to be trouble in that area for people that want to turn left. So people will have to have some patience. But we'll do the best we can. We'll get the word out. We've got a great social media network now. We'll take advantage of all that to make sure that people know what's going on.
Can you remind me of the time frame for that project?
We bid it with a pretty open schedule so that we could get as many bids from contractors as possible. And Georgetown, who we're recommending it be released to, is expecting a June and July construction, which spreads the fiscal year and really helps us a little bit with budgeting. So probably 2 months max. I think it's probably more like 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I heard Commissioner Gilbert say he was willing to go knock on all of his neighbors' doors down there.
I
Thought I heard
wanted
that.
to thank
Oh, you
Commissioner
weren't at that
Burke for his
meeting, that's
concern
right.
about my neighbor.
That's right.
and my traffic route.
Yeah.
If I can, Mr. Mayor, I will just wanted to ask on the Bristol Bridge project. So you're making the connection there. There is currently a lack of certain amenities to the folks on panel. Is there any consideration to stubbing the utility for future connection potentially that way?
Absolutely, it'll be stubbed out.
Okay,
So that's less friction in the future if we decide to tap into that.
right.
That's a good call.
There's a lot of space there
Yes.
that if someday some type of future development were to occur, it would be worth consideration. Not that it's not worth consideration now, but certainly a major investment.
Right. And there's some limitations right now down there. Some of the land and property owners can't do because of the situation, so. All right. Commissioners, any other questions for Scott? Anything else? We're good?
I'm good if you're good.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Scott. So again, recapping consent agenda, expenditures, the amount of $325,219.54. The 2 consult engineering contracts that we have discussed in previous meetings, and those agreements are now in front of us. The 3rd is bid recommendation for Alpine Avenue and Cogswell storm sewer replacement project. And the 4th item is the finance agreement for Bristol Bridge, Sanitary, Sewer, and Watermain. If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Chase, Commissioner Burke, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? We are past 7-0, thank you. Next on the list are resolutions. The first one is Resolution 22-649, is the 6th resolution for the Standale-Walker Streetscape Maintenance Special Assessment District 205, confirmation of the role. We had nobody speak at the public hearing. I don't think we've actually had anybody speak at the public hearings on that. If there's no further discussion on that, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
I'll make a motion.
I'll support.
Commissioner Babcock, Commissioner DeShane, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Next is Resolution 22-650, resolution adopting a revised community room rental fee schedule. I'll give the mic over to Daryl on this one. I know there's some background and an ongoing set of
Yeah,
challenges.
it's a pretty simple change that we're asking for right now. We rent out basically this covers the rental of the room above at Station 2, the community room up there. We rent that out, as you all know, but we have never charged a cancellation fee, and we've seen a trend lately over the last year or so where we've had parties that have reserved the room, and then all of a sudden at the last minute canceled it. And we do everything online now, so others have not had the opportunity to use that room, so it's sat unused on some weekends, and it's been a similar party doing it a lot of the time. So we figure if we put at least some type of a cancellation fee, we're recouping some of the costs in there, and we never had that before, so this is just a simple change to add that to our fee schedule.
Commissioners' discussion, yep.
My thought on this, and I don't disagree with having a cancellation policy in place, but is there like a duration of time within which if you cancel, the fee wouldn't be applicable? So say if I'm canceling more than 2 weeks in advance or something of that nature, it seems like there should be some consideration for, I mean, that would be something I would expect to see in a policy like this.
Yeah, I can check with the staff that have been working on this if they have something like that in part of the rule portion of it.
Okay.
But yeah, it seems
So that's something you can consider at implementation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But in concept, we're agreeing with, I should
I
ask
don't
around
mind,
before
I don't mind a cancellation fee existing, I just want to make sure that there's some reasonable accommodation
Right, yeah, we can make sure.
to a
there is
standard
some reasonable-
cancellation as opposed to what I consider an egregious one within like a couple days of the event.
Right, yeah, I'll see what the trend has been, but it seems like it's been like the week of or week before where we've seen these cancellations. So yeah, if it's a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks or whatever, we can work on
Yeah,
something that is
I think
certainly
like a
reasonable.
14-day policy is pretty standard for a cancellation, so.
Okay.
Within 14 days of schedule?
Within 14 days of the event, if you cancel if you cancel outside of that 14-day prior to the event window, you should be able to cancel, is what I would, so if it's 15 days out from the event, you would be able to then cancel your reservation, because I think that gives a fair opportunity for anyone else who might want to rent to do that. And
I might think it's a little longer. I'm thinking from because we think at the start of the year, it's still, we don't have people lined out the door like we used to in the old days, before the technology. But if we actually look at the online piece, people trying to do it, we're still hitting that derby, so to speak, in the early January timeframe.
yeah, I think it's something we can talk more about
Okay.
offline. But my
So maybe-
my general feeling is that I don't want like an undue harm to fall onto other residents who may want to rent
So
the
noted.
space and things like that.
So maybe if you could share if what similar,
Yeah, we'll do some research, get back to you on that part, but I think as far as the fee, if you're good with that, we can adopt this and move forward, so we have that fee, and then we'll come back with you with what the rules will be in implementation, taking your comments into consideration.
you know. All right, that being said, any other discussion on this? And if we are all good with said policy, entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
If I could just, for me, if you can book it 2 years in advance?
No.
The cancel window would be, so how far in advance can you book it commensurate with then when you need to cancel? would
Opens
be-
up that first week of January
things.
every
Yeah.
year for the year.
Those two things need to go together, I think.
Yeah.
Motion to adopt resolution 22-650.
A motion for Commissioner Burke, do we have support?
Support.
All right, any other discussion on this? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion adopted, or resolution 22-650 adopted. Thank you. Next on the list is resolution 22-651 is the industrial facilities exemption certificate for Tech Group Grand Rapids, located at 3116 North Wilson Court. Is there any, yes, Darrell?
Before you make a motion, just would like to point out that on the resolution, there's a blank on the second page about for how many years, and we would recommend the maximum of 12 years for this resolution for this project.
Which we've been pretty consistent with. that.
Yes, yeah,
So
meets,
that's nothing outside
exceeds
the
all the
norm.
requirements for that length of time.
Any discussion on the IFT? See none, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
So moved.
Commissioner
Support.
Gilbert, Commissioner Chase. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Gentlemen, thank you for coming in very much, and again, thank you for continued investment in the city. Thank you. And you're welcome to stay, there's intriguing conversation coming yet, so. All right, next on the list is any other public comment for non-agenda or agenda items. See nobody rushing to the mic, we'll move on. Commissioner, City Manager comments. I'm going to start to my right with Madam Clerk. Nothing. Commissioner Gilbert?
Just quickly, breakfast with legislators last week, I want to say on Monday morning. We had a really great discussion. Sheriff Michelle LaJoy Young and Grand Rapids Police Chief Eric Winstrom were there speaking, and just hearing their comments, just wanted to reiterate for this group how important it is to have the support of the local leaders for local law enforcement. I think that's what I heard resoundingly from them, and certainly throughout the community, the importance of having that, I think, vocal support from folks in positions like these. So just something to consider, and certainly was an impactful discussion that morning.
Awesome, thank you. Commissioner Babcock?
Just wanted to say thanks again to everyone with the Walker Winterfest. It was great turnout, good night. And then I think you guys all saw the draft for the Parks and Rec master plan. We meet tomorrow night to kind of talk about that and what's next. So if you have any questions, let me know. We'll bring them up tomorrow night.
Thank you. Commissioner Groders? Commissioner Chase? Commissioner DeShane?
I will not be available for the 19th meeting. I will be out of pocket that day.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Burke?
I had the honor of doing the selection for Senator Peters' Academy, Service Academy candidates, myself among others, a week ago Sunday. All-day event interviewing young men and women who want to go to one of the service academies. And it renewed my faith in the young generation. Some great young candidates, and it was really a pleasure to do it. It's about, I think, my 5th year in a row, and I'm just impressed every year. So we got a good generation coming along into the future.
Never retired from service to the country. Good stuff, thank you. City Manager?
Just a couple things. Winterfest, great turnout. Thanks for everybody for being there. I think our entire staff, WIFIC, police, fire, DPW, everybody did an awesome job. It was a great night, and the Grinch stole the show. Nice addition there. Just a reminder that I think you received an email from Shannon a week or two ago about our years of service recognition breakfast that we're doing for our staff. So if you are available next Wednesday morning, the 21st, it's from 8 to 9:30 upstairs at Station 2. And if you think you're going to be there, could you please RSVP to Shannon and just let her know we're trying to get an accurate count for the caterers. So if you can make it, that would be awesome. I think the staff would appreciate it. And then I think next meeting, prior to the meeting, we have a couple meetings that we'll be scheduling or have been scheduled for, I think, police, fire, and the personnel committee. So we'll follow up with the clerk's office on those. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Couple of quick things on my list. I see Chief Mankel in the room. We had thank you to those that were able to participate in the accreditation feedback. We had a nice meeting early one morning, and I just want to thank our police department. That is truly a labor of love and a sense of pride that they have in wanting to do that, because it is a lot of work. And but from the assessors, I just believe that we're in a really strong position as a city to move forward. And I think we'll find out February 8th. And how many hours and minutes until then? Are you counting that too, or no? All right, it's a big thing for us. And then the other is, if you were not aware, in a complete reversal of where it was heading, the county approved out of the ARPA money $75,000 to help bridge the gap on the senior neighbors Station 3 upgrades, I guess we'll call those, renovations up there, and Area Agency on Aging, who is the parent to senior neighbors, had already committed $150,000, so $225,000 puts us in a very, very favorable spot to get some things done. Actually, Commissioner Stuck had just texted me right before the meeting, was asking if we'd heard anything yet from, and it sounds like it's going to come from Area Agency. Will be coming to us with that and how to do all the allocations and all of that. So I know we're anxious to get going, which Commissioner Groders, if I didn't give her enough credit the last time, there was a significant amount more of work that was done up in Station 3, getting ready for the seniors to be able to come in up there, and just excited for that and what that's going to look like when it's all said and done. We've already given the shout outs to Winterfest, but that really is really a unique thing that we do in this community, and I'd like to thank to everybody else that's already been spoke of, as well as our community, for actually turning out for that. It's one thing to have it, it's another thing to get people to come out to it. So, and then lastly, and then on a high note, those that had not seen it, I know it hit social media a little bit, was Officer Harkema. I happened to be Sunday morning, I was traveling in an airport out west in early in the morning, and as I'm reading the newspaper about 8, 9 in the morning, I see this bright smiley face on there, and he didn't have the Grinch mask on this time, but what a really, really cool story. And if you have not already shared with him, the next time you see him around, that is something as active as we are in the community, on a very favorable, from a favorable position from the policing and the fire, and he works with our fire department as well strongly. It's just, you don't see enough of those cool things being talked about in law enforcement these days, and just to see that, it just could not think of a better way to start a week for me anyway, and reading that and seeing the picture and the shout outs we were getting through the MLive article. So just wanted to give him some special recognition, also take support from our chief to continue down that path. So.
And then we have Judge Bristol's retirement.
Oh, thank you.
this
Good
Thursday.
gosh. Thank you. Thank you. 3:30, Judge Versluis. Thank you. I'm going to say this out loud, and I'll share this again Thursday night in my comments, Thursday afternoon. I had shared when Judge Versluis came in and shared that he was not going to run for the next term back, I think it was the springtime. Sat down. One of the things I'd shared with him is just as important to me is the Tahoes going through the neighborhoods with the visibility that anybody intending to do something stupid in our city know that we have an active police presence. I think the other thing too, from a judicial side of it, I believe that there really is truly empathy and grace that Judge Versluis has practiced for a very long period of time for people that have made an honest mistake, and things sometimes happen, and it works with it. For those that are either frequent flyers or just don't really care and did something stupid anyway, no, it's not as favorable, and that's really how it should be in a law and order type of city. So I just told him, I said, I felt like his presence on that bench for the longest time for us always gave us a sense of comfort, knowing that when things came in front of him, somebody was not going to get a slap on the wrist and walk away if there was something really, really dumb and egregious. So that being said, I know Judge Christensen, soon to be Judge Christensen, has some big shoes to fill, but I know he's up to the challenge, and looking forward to having him on board with us as well. So that all being said, thank you for the reminder. Did I miss anything else? Thank you. All right, we'll entertain a motion for approval and support to adjourn, please.
Motion.
Support.
Gilbert, Groders, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, we stand adjourned. Thank you.